Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening. No, you're not listening to the main event. It's a big, weird, wild world out there, folks, and here we stand. Al pie del cañón, ready for anything. I'm Rob, that's Dan, and you're listening to
The ProBoh Show!
Good morning, friends. It is a lovely 20 degrees outside right here in Madrid, the capital of Spain. How are you doing out there, folks? It is 8:30 a.m. on this, the 21st of August 2026. Welcome. You're joining us live from the Vaughan Radio Studios. How are you doing, Dan?
I'm doing well today, and you?
Not too bad. It's Friday.
It's Friday!
Oh, yeah. We made it, Dan. We made it. What are your plans for the weekend?
I don't have any plans yet.
Congratulations. Me neither.
But I guess I will do something.
Yeah, Sophie and I have been talking about possibly the cinema to see the dinosaur movie with, what's her name? The actress. I can't remember. I don't know much. Not Last House. What's it called? Something Oak Street. The End of Oak Street. Have you seen the trailer for that movie?
I think so, but I don't remember too well.
Yeah, for me, like anything with dinosaurs immediately interests me. Like I still remember that moment, that amazing moment of discovery when I first saw Jurassic Park as a younger man. So yes, perhaps go to the cinema. Other than that, maybe go and see Andrea and the girls. Other than that, nothing, man. Nothing. Oh, what a beautiful plan for the weekend. Let's see. You can join us live, by the way, on the show. Twitch.tv/professional bohemian. www.itch.tv/bohemio profesional, pero en inglés. You can join us, come and contribute. Allow me to be the conduit of your thoughts and ideas live, just like the Bridge, Mike, and all the other people joining us live this morning. Bridge says, "Good morning, my beautiful bonny bouncy bohemians. Bountifully bouncy Bonnie Bob and diligent dandy Dan Dan, the dutifully dexterous radio man." Jeez Louise, the alliteration. Mike is here. He says, "Good morning, dear Bohemians. This is currently the main event on Vaughan Radio. Missing the lunchtime show, though. By the way, did you see Carnosaur back in the day? I did not see Carnosaur. What the hell is Carnosaur? Now I'm curious, Dan. Forgive me while I very quickly paste Carnosaur into Google and find out. Oh, here we go. Oh, it looks like an amazing B-movie from 1993. When nefarious geneticist Dr. Jane Tiptree, played by Diane Ladd, plots to wipe out all humans and replace them with flesh-eating dinosaurs, it's up to security guard Doc Smith, Raphael Sabaj, to stop her. There you go, Carnosaur. That's a recommendation from Mike in the chat. Never saw it, Mike, but very tempted. As again, I'm fascinated by all things dinosaurs. Is that just a consequence of youth, Dan? Are you intrigued by dinosaurs or
not so much?
Not so much. No. You know, I think back in the day, Steven Spielberg just hit on. You know, he caught lightning in a bottle with Jurassic Park. So yeah, I am very, very excited to see that. By the way, next week's topics, we have a full 5 days next week, and I have posted the topics for you to vote on it. They are currently on my Patreon if you want to navigate there. Patreon.com/professional bohemian. It's Bohemio Profesional, pero en inglés. You can vote on the ones you want to see. That post should be open for anyone to access. So do go and vote on the things you want us to talk about next week. All right. Also, if you want to join our live audience, twitch.tv/professional bohemian. And of course, you can interact with our amazing program on my Instagram if you can't join us live, which is @professional bohemian on Instagram. All right. Should we get into what's going to happen today? Today, we are talking about democracy, I think. Yeah, why the hell not? We asked our 100 humans today to name something people vote. This is an awkwardly phrased question, Dan. Name something people vote based on besides policy. Nombra algo en lo que la gente se basa para votar aparte de las políticas. So So name something people vote based on besides policy. So policy obviously is things like, I'm going to reduce taxes, I'm going to reform the social security system. But apart from political policies, what do they vote on? That's today's 100 Human Question, and our quite controversial and heavily swayed in one direction unpopular opinion today is most people are not informed enough to vote responsibly. La mayoría de la gente no está lo bastante informado o informada. Thank you.
Informado.
Yeah, I got there. O. Informada o informada. Como para votar de manera responsable. Going to be a controversial one today. I know it's going to be controversial because it is very heavily swayed in one direction on Instagram, and me, being the diligent person that I am, I'm going to try and convince you otherwise, as we usually do on this show. But first, friends, I'm here. You're here. Our live audience is here. Dan the Radio Man's here. Our angelic podcast listeners are here. Let's see what is happening in the world today, shall we? A big good morning, by the way, to Artemisa, who's also joining us. Good morning, Rob, Dan, and all the charming, cheerful Bohemians. Friday. Also, Vero joining us. Good morning, beautiful Bohemians around the universe and beyond. Gente informada. Thank you, Vero. I self-corrected there. Dan, did you see that? I self-corrected before everyone pounced. All right, what should we talk about? What do you want to talk about, Dan? Do you want to talk about... Oh, actually, I'm not going to ask you because I know what you're going to vote on. And I do want to talk very briefly about... another controversial subject, guys, so bear with us. We're going to talk about full face veil bans. Los prohibiciones del velo integral. Because, Portugal has just become the latest country in Europe to ban or restrict face coverings. So I just wanted to very quickly talk about that. Full face veil bans. How do rules compare across Europe? This is Euronews, their article published last night. Prohibiciones del velo integral. ¿Cómo se comparan las normas en Europa? Europe is taking sharply different approaches to full face veils, with Portugal becoming the latest country to ban or restrict face coverings in public spaces. Across the continent, the rules range from nationwide bans, that is in places like, I think it's France, Belgium, Bulgaria, Austria, and Denmark. They have just nationwide bans, to more limited restrictions in places such as the Netherlands, Luxembourg, Germany, and Italy. Supporters of these measures often cite security, identification, communication, social cohesion, and secular neutrality as reasons for the regulation. But the picture is far from uniform. Spain, for example. Well, Spain, Sweden, Greece, they have no broad national bans, instead relying on local institutional decisions, legal protections or specific dress code rules. The debate reflects a wider European tension between public security and social integration on one side, and religious freedom and individual rights and anti-discrimination protections on the other. You know what, Dan? I'm going to spare you opining on this one because it is a political hot potato. Okay, so I'm not going to ask you how you feel about this one. Just in case you're wondering why I'm leaving you out of the debate, you're welcome. Where do I stand on this one? Ooh. We'll get into it when I finish reading this article, because I don't want to get any more death threats. The debate reflects a wider European tension, obviously, between public security and social integration on one side, religious freedom, individual rights, and anti-discrimination protections on the other. As most countries review or tighten their rules, full face veil laws remain one of Europe's most sensitive tests of how liberal democracies balance identity, safety, and personal liberty. It is a political hot potato. I think I'm quite sensitive to this one, Dan, because I was raised in in Bradford in the UK with a very high Muslim community. By the way, if you're wondering what the rules are here in Spain, local discretion, I think you could sum it up as. Spain lacks national legislation on the issue. This is a direct quote from the article. Leaving decisions to the discretion of schools and institutions. In 2013, the Supreme Court backed a Madrid high school's decision to exclude a hijab-wearing student, setting a precedent, but not a standard. While Islamic groups have stressed that the Spanish Constitution and a 1992 cooperation agreement together protect the right to wear religious attire. And the Ministry of Education has not prioritised national guidance, arguing that such cases are rare and manageable at the local level, which, I see as quite pragmatic and makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, I wouldn't want people, like, I'm secular in nature, right? I subscribe to no particular religion, but I wouldn't want people to be restricted from wearing a crucifix. I wouldn't want that. I would want people to express themselves and their religious beliefs however they see fit. I don't want to restrict the wearing of a turban. I don't want to, that's kind of where I stand on this subject. But it does beg the question, what are the restrictions? Are there any restrictions in Muslim countries to how Western women dress? So I did do a quick search. The United Arab Emirates, or Qatar, tourists are usually expected to dress modestly, especially in mosques or office buildings. Saudi Arabia, foreign women are generally not required to cover their hair, but modest clothing is expected. I mean, I think even here we expect people on the street to dress modestly, don't we? So I don't think that's a big surprise to anyone. It is, however, in more, I suppose you might say, extreme regimes, like in Iran, women, including visitors, are expected to follow hijab rules. In Afghanistan, under the Taliban, it's much stricter with heavily enforced dress codes for women. So I guess, yes, there are similar restrictions do exist, but they are not perfectly mirrored. Europe tends to restrict face covering. Stricter Muslim majority countries tend to require modest covering. So there you go. That is about as balanced as I can report that piece of news. But I do think it's important we talk about it. Oh dear, no burqa, says the bridge. Can you wear a balaclava? Well, a balaclava, it depends on the balaclava, I guess. Mike says the issue is also whether girls decide to wear or they are forced to do so. Yeah, that's true as well. Let's not get into this debate, shall we, guys? Because I've got another one prepared. Let's go to today's unpopular opinion.
Unpopular opinion.
It may be a debate we wade into in the future, though, so hold your hats. It is an interesting one, and obviously very contentious, the idea of full face veils. I don't want to be too glib about it. I can only offer you my opinion and say my opinion. I don't want to restrict anyone's religious freedom. But yeah, again, you know what Grandpa Bo says about opinions. All right, let's get into today's unpopular opinion, which is... quite a controversial one today. Most people are not informed enough to vote responsibly. La mayoría de la gente no está lo bastante informada para votar de manera responsable. What do you think, Dan? How do you think they voted on Instagram, first of all?
I think they voted true.
94% of people, and quite a few people voted today. 94% of them voted true. Yeah. Where do you stand on this one?
I think it's true, but I don't think it's people's fault.
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree on that. In fact, yeah. Well, I might not necessarily agree with the claim 100%, because it depends on where we draw the line on what informed means, right? I think we're heading down a bad path in democracy when we assume that voting is an exam, because it isn't, is it? The purpose of democracy isn't to identify the people who understand politics the best and let them choose for everyone else, is it? Voting exists partially because ordinary people possess information that experts and highly engaged political observers don't. How can I best explain this, or at least my point of view? Again, bear in mind, guys, it's very heavily swayed in the true column, so my job here today is to try and offer a compelling argument to why it might not be true. For example, consider two voters, right? One can explain quantitative easing, knows the difference between the European Council and the European Union, I don't know, reads several newspapers every morning, and has studied every single political party's manifestos. Whoa! Well informed. But the other person knows almost nothing about that, but he or she knows that their rent has increased 40%, that their local bus has stopped running, and they know it takes 3 weeks to see a doctor, and maybe their son or their partner can't find regular stable work. Which one is better informed? The question doesn't really make sense. They possess different kinds of information, right? The information democracy needs is distributed. And it's perhaps not information that we all possess. I think that's the beauty of democracy, right? No individual can understand everything a government governs, right? Healthcare, agriculture, taxation, disability provision, housing, immigration, education, policing, pensions, transport, energy, defense. No single person is going to understand every single facet of those parts of governance. But millions of people each know tiny pieces of it extremely well. Because they live inside the consequences of those different areas. A nurse knows things about the healthcare system that a political scientist doesn't, right? A small business owner knows things about regulation that a journalist doesn't. A disabled person knows things about accessibility that an economist doesn't. A commuter. As a commuter, know more probably about public transport than someone who drives every day. Voting is just one mechanism for aggregating all those fragments of lived information. So the idea that most voters don't understand the whole system actually describes why democracy is necessary, right? Nobody understands the whole system. It's difficult and it's dangerous, I think, to start saying, well, some people. Where do you draw the line? Who isn't properly educated enough to vote? Who decides what counts as informed enough? What do we do? Do we introduce a political test? Question 1, who's the Prime Minister? Easy, right? Question 2, what is the current inflation rate? Uh-oh. Question 3, explain the difference between nominal and real GDP. Uh-oh. Where do you draw the line? What is informed enough? Yeah, voting isn't a reward for knowing things. Yeah, that gives you a partially, I don't know. Democracy doesn't ask whether you're qualified to run a country. It asks whether the country has the right to run you without hearing from you. So that, in essence, kind of is, I'm trying there to, as hard as I can, to kind of argue against where 94% of the people who voted today said, yeah, it's true, most people are not informed enough to vote responsibly. So let's look at their arguments, shall we? Let's get into the pro column. Voting requires knowledge that most people do not have. Elections involve economics, public spending, healthcare, foreign policy, education, law, and institutions. Most citizens, understandably, do not have the time or expertise to understand all of these areas well enough to judge competing claims with confidence. As I explained before, I don't think democracy requires every voter to become a policy expert, does it? People can make responsible choices based on their values or their lived experience. Many voters rely on identity rather than evidence. Oof. This is going to be a tough one to rebut today, but let's go. Political choices are often shaped by party loyalty, family background, social group, or cultural identity. Once a political preference becomes part of who someone is, new information may be judged according to whether it supports the group rather than whether it's true. But let's not kid ourselves. Identity politics influences experts and politicians too. Ordinary voters aren't uniquely irrational. Like, political values legitimately involve questions of belonging, moral priorities, as well as factual calculation. Of course, if we talk about one thing ad nauseum on this show, it's how bias and corrupt media and algorithmic news sources have shaped and warped the way we all see the world. But it's true, it's not just we, the voters, the electorate, who are influenced by identity or populism. You know, it influences the experts and politicians too. Political information is usually difficult to evaluate. Voters face partisan media, misleading statistics, selective reporting and campaign advertising, social media clips, and confident claims from people with conflicting incentives. Even motivated citizens may struggle to distinguish genuine expertise from sophisticated persuasion. And I think that's where Dan's coming from, and I honestly kind of understand that position too, because if I've mentioned anything at great length on this show, it's that, right? But I think the answer to bad information is better information and stronger media literacy, right? It's not treating citizens as incapable of democratic judgment. I mean, who is the tier of people who is qualified to make those decisions in that case? It's a tough one today, isn't it? It's a tough one, Dan. All right, let's get into the cons, where only 6%, a brave 6%, said no. Most people are informed enough to vote responsibly. Responsible voting does not require expertise. A voter does not need to understand every detail of monetary policy or constitutional law. They need enough information to compare broad priorities, records, values, and likely consequences. Democracy is a system for citizens, not an examination for political scientists. It's supposed to offer some kind of rebuttal. I mean, if the information threshold becomes too low, almost any emotionally motivated choice can be described as responsible, right? There has to be some minimum level of factual understanding. If your brain has been warped by the footballization of our political system, then how responsible are you going to be at voting? Probably not very, right? Oh, I'm showing my hand here today. Lived experience is politically relevant knowledge. People understand schools as parents, hospitals as patients, housing as tenants, and wages as workers. This practical knowledge may reveal consequences that experts and policymakers overlook. Yeah. Our lived experience, our traveling through the world as independent agents, makes our views vital to democracy. Of course, we do to a certain extent require a well-informed public, but our lived experience is quite often enough information, isn't it? I'll never know as much about the healthcare system as a nurse, but if that nurse drives to work every day, I probably know more about public transport than she does. Does that make sense? Collective judgment can outperform individual expertise, and we'll leave it here. Democracy aggregates millions of perspectives, interests, experiences, and pieces of information. No individual voter needs to understand everything if different citizens know different things, and political competition exposes competing arguments. Oof. God, we'll do one more, given that the false side of the argument struggled so hard on Instagram. I'm hoping for a little bit more equal judgment here among our live audience. Expertise does not determine political values. Many electoral disagreements are not questions with technically correct answers. Citizens legitimately disagree about taxation, equality, freedom, immigration, welfare, punishment, and national priorities because they value different things. And those values are interesting and valid information points, right? All right, there we go. That's today's unpopular opinion. I'll post a poll and you guys will vote. It is, of course, most people are not informed enough to vote responsibly. La mayoría de la gente no está lo bastante informada para votar de manera responsable. True or false? We're going to take a very quick commercial break while you cast your vote. It'll be interesting to see how you view this one. As well as more perspectives and our 100 humans coming up right after the break. I'll see you in just a few minutes. Hey guys, if you'd like to support the show, you can do so on Patreon. That's patreon.com/professional bohemian. There you'll find VODs of the episodes as they are recorded live, blogs, vlogs, and behind-the-scenes content. If you'd like to watch the show live, you can do so on twitch.tv/professional bohemian, and you can participate in the polls we use in the show on Instagram @professional bohemian or Twitter @ProBoh, ProBoh. Okay, on with the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Now 9 a.m. on this Friday, 21st of August. Dan, can we get it one more time? It makes me happy, that jingle. It's... oh, bless him. Can we have it? I don't hear it.
Oh, yes, I thought you were going to say the word.
Oh, yeah, on this Friday.
It's Friday!
Oh, yeah. Oh, doesn't it feel good to hear that? Dan, doing God's work there. All right. So what did you miss if you just tuned in? Wow, very controversial show we're having today, Dan. Hopefully I'm managing to navigate the center well enough. The piece of news we looked at today, obviously following Portugal becoming the latest country to ban or restrict face coverings in public spaces. I understand it's a contentious issue. I have my opinions and you guys are well entitled to have your own. We didn't really get into the weeds of those opinions, just simply looked at the facts. We compared different countries and their restrictions. We looked at what's happening here in Spain, and we also took a little weather eye to see the restrictions on foreign women in Muslim majority countries. And it's interesting to draw that comparison. I mean, I think without the full information, I think quite often we get trapped in a media landscape where we're just listening to opinion all the time, right? Which is why it's fairly interesting just to dispassionately look at the facts. And that's what we attempted to do in the first part of the show before we got into today's unpopular opinion, which again is another contentious and quite controversial one. Most people are not informed enough to vote responsibly. La mayoría de la gente no está lo bastante informada para votar de manera responsable. I do want to pay a little attention to one interesting comment in the chat. Mike says, "What even is voting responsibly?" I think the term to vote responsibly may refer to voting in an informed manner, right? To vote dispassionately, to vote based on your actual beliefs and not what we see today, which is the intense footballification of party politics. I remember, right, each of us, the way I think about it is this. Because believe it or not, I do exist more in the center than I maybe reflect on this show. But I have a moral kind of, if I think of my morals as anything, it's probably like a Christmas tree, right? And then I hang policies that I agree with or disagree with, independent of party, on that tree. It seems to be that has been somewhat reversed now, though, right? We're buying the Christmas tree already decorated. And if a party says one thing, then we agree with whatever it is they say. Well, I'm on this. It's like being a fan of Real Madrid or being a fan of Atleti, right? It's like, that's not how the political system is supposed to work. Again, I'm showing my hand here. I did quite strongly argue in favour of false today. I think I'm pretty much more in the centre than in reality than I might have reflected. But of course, it was 94% of people voted true today, and I do want to provide some balance. Is the debate really about what democracy assumes about ordinary people? Right? I mean, there's two views here. One treats democratic citizenship as demanding responsibility, right? If citizens exercise power over one another through elections, they have a duty to understand what they are supporting. And from that perspective, I guess, voting without making a reasonable effort to become informed is like making an important decision on someone else's behalf without really reading the instructions. And I think that's where at least 94% of the people who voted today kind of see it. But the other view begins from equality, and that was the view I was kind of trying to argue. That democracy is not based on the idea that everyone is equally knowledgeable. It's based on the idea that everyone is affected by political power, and everyone that is affected deserves an equal voice in choosing who exercises it, right? Ignorance may be unfortunate, but intelligence, education, expertise do not give one person a greater moral claim to political authority over another. An interesting fact of the 94% of people who agreed with the claim that not everyone is informed enough to vote responsibly, I imagine that 50% of the people who voted true today would say the other 50% of the people who voted true aren't politically informed enough. Right? Is that a consequence of a polarized media landscape? It may be. It may be. There's also a conflict here, I think, between competence and legitimacy. A system run, right? Imagine a system run solely, entirely by experts. They might technically make better decisions, but citizens could reasonably ask why those experts have the right to decide what society should value. Conversely, a perfectly representative democracy can still make disastrous choices. I mean, look at Brexit. Look at Brexit. An entire country voting to place economic sanctions upon itself. I think maybe the uncomfortable possibility is that democracy doesn't work because citizens are exceptionally informed. It works when it does because power is dispersed. Governments can be removed. Competing interests can contain one another, or constrain, or just restrict one another. And no small group is trusted permanently. And that is the beauty of democracy, right? But then we get into the weeds about what informed means, right? And who is in charge of what is legitimate information. Again, the nurse who understands the healthcare system way better than a political expert might. Yeah, it's a tough one today. Have we shifted your needle at all, Dan?
Not really. No.
Not really. You're still very much in the true column. Yeah. Let's take a look at some of the comments received on our chat among our live audience. Let's have a look. Veros is true. No one reads political parties' campaign platforms. That way they can do whatever they want once they're in power. Many of them say they care about people, but where are the results? Where do our taxes go? That's from Vero. Yeah, it's a fair point, In most countries, all the political leaders went to the same 4 schools, right? It's the case in the UK. Yeah, and again, haven't I said this ad nauseum? Does Donald Trump know what it's like to have to wait for the bus in the morning? Does Andy Burnham really understand what it is to, make the choice between heating his home and, and buying dessert for his family? Probably not. Bridge says, oh, that's all right. I'm not planning to go to Afghanistan anytime soon. That's in reference to the article we read about the face covering ban. BB says, how are you doing, BB? True, we only want info that is similar to our opinion. We don't read, listen, or get informed by means that are not aligned with our views. And I'm with Dan on this one when he said right at the top of the show, yeah, I agree, true, but I don't think it's people's fault. We live in these algorithmically designed bubbles. We wonder why we're so selfish nowadays. Why we're so increasingly more individualistic when everything is designed to to satisfy our own little base instincts. I mean, if you exist on social media, you're only going to get things that, you're only going to be fed things that you're going to interact with. Ah, man. Artemisa says, I know very few people who read all the parties' manifestos before voting. I did it once, although by the end I was wondering whether it had actually made me any better informed. Even if you do read every manifesto, you're still reading promises written by people trying to win your vote. Yeah, which is what I'm saying about lived experience. And why democracy almost, it's almost an argument for democracy that people's lived experience matters in how they vote. The problem is, of course, that where do you find the truth among all the lies in the modern media? I don't think the problem is democracy. I think the problem is informing the public in a way that they can trust now. And of course, post-COVID, we've just lived in this post-truth society since really began in 2016, didn't it? Where all of a sudden the truth became a matter of personal choice, not a binary thing. This is true, this is false. No. Now we all pick our own truth, don't we? Yeah. It's infuriating. Particularly if you read as much news as I do. It just drives me insane trying to, pick apart opinion. I mean, everything has a narrative, doesn't it? Everything has a narrative. Again, I mean, look, Associated Press, not perfect. Probably if you're looking for a better alternative, Reuters. To keep informed. I don't know. It almost feels futile now because nobody is really... It seems like nobody's interested in a cold reading of the facts. What they want to know is how to think. How do I feel about this issue? Well, let me turn to Instagram, or let me turn to Facebook, or let me turn to X and see what position I can parrot. Yeah. Sorry, am I being overly dramatic, Dan? I could be. It might be the case. Shall we see some opinions we got on Instagram? I did handpick these to make them a little less kind of, because almost everybody was in the true column. I think that's probably true, says Callum. Most of us spend more time researching a new phone than the policies we're voting on. Oof. Can we get a nivelazo for that, please?
Vaya nivelazo.
Yeah. When you think about the last large purchase he made, I bet you put more effort into finding the better option in price and benefits for the last big purchase he made than the last vote he made. And let's not forget how many of our opinions when it comes to matters of politics are inherited. I was born blue, I'm going to die blue. I was born red, I'm going to die red. Yeesh. Let's see, Vero here in the audience. She says, here in Spain, the Minister of Health is always saying that since she's a doctor, she knows what she's doing. Do you really know, ma'am? Take a look at the waiting lists. Nadia on Instagram said, you don't need to be a political expert to vote responsibly. People understand their own lives and priorities better than politicians do. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the power of a democracy, right? We all are experts in our own lives, and we all know, what we want to improve them. The problem is, if you're just voting along party lines or actually voting for the things that are going to make your life better. All right. Thomas says the uncomfortable question is who gets to decide what is informed enough or what informed enough means. Any test would be incredibly easy to abuse. And I cover that in the really beginning bit of the show. Yeah, where do we draw the line? You know, question 1, who is the Prime Minister? Easy. Question 2, what is the current inflation rate? Uh-oh. Explain the difference between nominal and real GDP. Uh-oh. By the way, the difference. Nominal GDP measures the value of goods and services using current prices, right? And real GDP adjusts for inflation. So it measures whether the economy is actually producing more goods and services. That's the difference. Just if you want to make this argument to anyone else. So it's a tough one. It's a tough one. And I understand people's reticence to say false, but we've got to understand that a democracy isn't an exam, isn't a political exam. The problem is modern politics has become a popularity contest, hasn't it? Rather than actual political engagement. Maite, this is the last one we'll do from Instagram, I think. Maite says, maybe the problem isn't uninformed voters. It's expecting ordinary people to navigate incredibly complicated issues. Wow, Maite's going to get a ProBoh approved. Maybe the problem isn't uninformed voters. It's expecting ordinary people to navigate incredibly complicated issues through slogans, campaign, and party loyalties. Can we get her a ProBoh approved, please?
ProBoh approved.
Is that where you're at, Dan? Like the difficulty in navigating what you actually believe when it's just everything is so partisan.
Yes.
Yeah, it is tough, isn't it? And then you can't even trust your own social networks to provide you with any kind of balance. Because your own social networks, all they want to do is keep you engaged. So they're not going to show you anything that will make you enraged with a platform. God forbid. We need clicks. We need to create shareholder value. Woo. That's the problem. That's the problem. It's not about policy anymore, is it? It doesn't seem to be. You know, we've got party loyalty or, you know, even just personality. I mean, that's why Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage kind of, you know, convinced everyone in the UK to vote against their own best interests. You know, even the appearance of a politician can sway someone. Look at look what happened to Paul Keir Starmer. People just didn't like the look of him. He looked boring. You know, the influence of your family, the media coverage or the popularity of whoever it is voting, or, you know, again, social media. You know, people are so easily swayed, and it's not their fault. This is not a criticism of the electorate. It's a criticism, nor is it a criticism of democracy. It's a criticism of a media landscape that makes it impossible to make rational decisions. Should we get to the results of the poll? I think we probably should have waxed on long enough. All right. So I made the statement, most people are not informed enough to vote responsibly. La mayoría de la gente no está lo bastante informada como para votar de manera responsable. And you guys said 60% true. You know this, I know I've done as well as I could to argue false today, but if I examine my heart, I think maybe I've got more of a foot in the true column. But it's, again, I kind of agree with what Dan said again, right at the top of the show. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. We all think we're immune to the kind of propagandizing that happens, but we're not. It's impossible. It's impossible in this media, this algorithmically driven media landscape, when you've got so many things just vying for your attention. Most voters probably know less about ideal democratic theory than we'd like them to, you know. But democracy was never built on the assumption that citizens were experts. It was built on the belief that those who must live under power deserve a share in controlling it. The challenge isn't deciding who is knowledgeable enough to vote. It's building a political culture in which having the right to vote comes with a stronger expectation to understand what you are voting for. But you know what Grandpa Bo would say about that, right? He'd say, Rob, that's just your opinion, and opinions, they're like buttholes. Everyone has one. They all stink, including mine. Let's move on to today's 100 Humans. Mike says, uninformed people actually use their own personal situation to determine whom to vote for. That is just as reasonable as the people who read all the news and know the figures. Yeah, exactly. That's the argument that I was making, Mike. To some kind of success, I guess. We took it from a 94% vote to a 60% vote. So I'll take that as some kind of a success there. All right, let's get into it. Name something people vote on besides policy. Nombra algo en lo que la gente se basa para votar, aparte de las políticas, the policies. I asked them that question, they gave me their answers. I'm in possession of the top 7 answers. Your job in the audience is to identify those top 7 answers. Big thanks to Juan Areo, Fran Perea, Feno Kitty, Ivan Samroff, Ivan GP, Annika San, Emily, well, a whole slew of you. Thank you for interacting. Dan, I did mention... I did actually list all these off cheekily a few minutes ago, so let's see if you were paying attention. What is something people vote on besides policy?
I was going to say social ideas, but I guess that's politics as well. So.
Yeah. Social, what did you say?
Ideas, I mean.
Did you say media there?
Social media.
Social media. Oh, social media is there, Dan. Well done. Oh dear. We're running out of time, Dan. Forgive me. I know you don't like it when I do that. 5 of 100 humans said social media. The bias being swayed by social media will affect someone's vote. Nothing to do with policy. 5 of 100 humans said that. 7th most popular answer. 7th most popular answer, sorry. Politicians' appearance, says Mike. Yeah, their appearance. You know, like Keir Starmer looked like a boring man. He achieved quite a lot in the Labour Party, but he looked like a boring man. So he was gouged by the press, and now we've got Andy Burnham. Let's see if he does any better. He looks a little more interesting, at least. Is appearance there? Apariencia. Yes, it is. Well done. 19 of 100 humans said appearance. It's the number 3 answer. Where are we? Lived experience. It's a great answer, but it's not there. Sorry. That was from Artemisa. Great answer, though. And Vero said something very similar. BB says party loyalty. Party loyalty. Yeah, they just an allegiance to a political party, right? A partido político. And yeah, your loyalty to them. Is it there? Yes, it is. Well done. And with 23 of 100 humans, BB, it's the number 1 answer. Candidates' charisma, says BB. Yeah, their personality, right? Personalidad, or carisma, I think you say in Spanish. Is personality there? BB, you're on fire. Personality is there. Family influence, says Artemisa. Family influence. Influencia familiar. Is it there? Artemisa, you're on fire too. Well done. 4th most popular answer with 13 of 100 humans. Friends' opinions. Oh, can I give that? Yeah, you know what? I'm going to give it to her. I'm going to give it to Mike. You know, how popular the party is perceived to be. If something's perceived to be popular, more people are going to jump in line, right? So, yeah, your friends' opinions, people's opinions around you, how popular they seem. Popularidad is there. It's the 6th most popular answer with 8 of 100 humans. Let me dive into Instagram real quick. Juan Areo says religion. Yeah, wow, that's a good one. Religion. Populism, says Fran Perea, how popular they are. Or populism, yeah. There's quite often empty promises, though, aren't Candidates integrity, says Feno Kitty. Religion, again, said Ivan Samrov. Ivan GP, security, or, the sect, I think he's talking about, political party loyalty there. How things are going for them, says Annika San. Yeah, their lived experience. Probably number 8 answer is obviously people vote based on their own lived experience, right? Emily had a whole slew of answers. Looks, ads. Oof, ads is a good one. Party affiliation, endorsements, wild fallacies and fantasies. Look, Emily says ads. Mike says speeches. Dan, you're going to hate me. But the ads, right, and the coverage of the speeches, the media coverage, right, cobertura mediática, is it there? Yes, it is, Dan. Of course it is. You can't see his frustration, but you see when I do that. Guys, you completed today's 100 humans. Let's go through the list. Well done, well done. So I asked 100 humans to name something people vote on besides policy. Nombra algo en lo que la gente se basa para votar, aparte de las políticas. In position number 7, social media, redes sociales. In position number 6, we had popularity, how popular they appear to be. Popularidad. In position number 5, cobertura mediática, media coverage. Their political ads and, how popular they appear to be, the coverage of their speeches, etc. In position number 4, we had family influence. Influencia familiar. That was there with 13 of 100 humans. In position number 3, appearance, apariencia. 19 of 100 humans said that. In position number 2, obviously personality, how charismatic the person appears to be. And finally, in position number 1, with 23 of 100 humans, we had political party or political loyalty, party loyalty. Well done, guys. Wow, what a great 3 days back after my 2 days off. And, I know where I attribute that success. It's to the young man in the studio. Dan, thank you for this week's shows. It's been a good one. And thank you guys for joining me live every day and making this an amazing show to be part of. See you next time.